Here's something I think might help you with your NVC. But you have to trust me a little bit on this one. I'm going to guide you through a few mental exercises, and I would like to ask for your trust that there's a good reason for them, okay? So, just take my word for it that there is a word for that feeling when you're just waking up and you just feel so good in your body, like it's delicious to wake up so comfortably. Maybe the sun is shining. Maybe you have no good reason for feeling this way, but it just feels delicious to gradually wake up. So, there's a word for that. Think about it. What is that word? You might have heard it before. Give it a moment. Maybe you can remember. What is the word for that? Okay. Now, here's another one. That feeling almost of panic, jarring sensation, freaked outness that you feel when someone is very confident about some belief that you would otherwise be extremely confident is wrong. Something that goes so far against your reality that their apparent confidence in this truth somehow threatens you. There's a feeling for that. It's something like panic or freaked outness, but it's its own thing. Just let's say there's a word for it. And let's say that you've probably heard this word before, so stop and think. What is the word for this feeling? And furthermore, this feeling which I've described to you, can you find the need, the longing behind that? There's something like a safety, a sense of shared reality, yes, but a safety that no one's going to pull you out of what seems to be real for you, not going to somehow force you to believe something that makes no sense to you, that's so far from your own reality. So what's that safety feel like? The longing for, oh yeah, we're all somehow on the same page here, at least on the kind of fundamentals. This kind of safety in a very basic level of your perception of reality. Feels solid, feels like a relief when you've got that. Imagine there's a word for this need. What's the word for that need? Stop and think about it. Pause the video if you have to. If I remember right, the word for having a word on the tip of your tongue is Lethologica. We all know this experience of knowing exactly what we want to talk about, but not having a word come to our mind immediately. And when we're in this space of trying to remember the word that we think we know, we're focused on this wordless truth, this wordless experience. And you might become aware of what it's like to focus on an experience without being able to have a word for it just yet. To purposefully go into this space of Lethologica, to contemplate that feeling, that experience. I think it helps us immeasurably in NVC to be able to experience that place where we are connecting with a feeling or connecting with the lived experience of a need within us, a longing, connecting with that before we put words to it. The more we can dwell in the wordless space. Firstly, yes, we'll find better words perhaps. And secondly, it's that dwelling in that space that is really what MVC is suggesting that we do. To dwell in that space means to be really connected with your own need, or really connected with your own feeling. It wasn't so long ago I had a small conflict which I tried my best to resolve with MVC. And it did work out very well for me, almost magically. I love those moments when MVC feels like magic. And instead of using a lot of words, I didn't use a lot of words. I didn't use very fancy MVC language. I just connected with the experience of my need, my longing. And then when I made a request from that space, I think my facial expression, my voice tone, everything made it very clear, very, very clear that I was not blaming anyone, and made it just kind of made my humanity very obvious and very easy to connect with. And that made giving to me easy. That's how I think the other people experienced it. And dwelling in that experience of the beautiful need, I think that has this element of Lethologica to it, to really be there with that experience. And that was the magic. That was the magic. It wasn't the words. It was being there with the experience. Another reason why I think this concept of Lethologica can help us with MVC is I think one day when we live in a utopian future where MVC has become an institution in all corners of our society, imagine that. One day when we live in this utopia, our language will evolve, and now we've got maybe one page of feelings and one page of needs when we get the handouts in our MVC trainings and so on in our workshops. One day there'll be, whole booklets, thousands of words which don't exist yet, because there are so many subtleties of feelings and needs which currently our words are not very good at describing. And when I can be in this space of Lethologica, of being with my feeling or my need before I give a word to it, knowing that the direct experience of the feeling is the feeling and not the word I give to it. I am not angry. I am this. This is what I'm experiencing. And I'm in there right now. This is what I'm experiencing. It looks like this. It feels like this. It's right here. It's got this temperature. It's got this movement rhythm. That's what I've got inside of me. And anger is a very simple word for all of those things. One day I think we'll have thousands of words for all of the different feelings. And the needs even more so. I feel that when I'm really dwelling in my lived experience of my need or my longing, when I'm like, okay, so my need is shared reality, right? But like, what's that like to feel it, to experience it, shared reality? What does that feel like? Oh, wow. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah, that's what shared reality feels like. Okay. And to live in that experience, to be there right now, that makes the word feel pretty empty, actually. But when I am in the experience, people can see from my facial expression, from my voice tone. Maybe they can even read my thoughts a little bit, who knows? But they can connect with the meaning. So until we have a vocabulary of thousands of words for needs, we're going to have to kind of experience them and hope that people will pick up from our body language what we can't really express in words. And one last thing, I find that one word from the needs list rarely really expresses that experience of being in the need. Rarely. So what I love to do is to dwell in this Lethologica, in this experience of there is my need that I'm experiencing, there it is. And I can use a few sentences even to paint a picture. And that can be very connecting, and that can be very healing, perhaps for me or perhaps for the other person. Of course, not every situation calls for such a deep exploration of what a need is. But some of the time it might be appropriate, and I often find I need more than just one word from the needs list to really make it something that people can connect with in a way that really feels, human and real. Wow, shared reality is such a big deal for me. To be on the same page, to know that there's a certain foundation, solid ground under my feet that can't be taken away, to know that, that 2 + 2 = 4, somehow that gives me a safety to know that everyone's on the same page about some things that I consider basic. For example, that can be a way of describing a need in a few more words. So, yeah, thanks for listening.